Alright, this is an unboxing for eBay fog lights for the 8thGen Civic. There's one fog light, two fog light. This is the switch in the panel. And here's instructions that I'm not sure if they make sense or not. I didn't even read, but let's just put that away. And here's the wiring. Get rid of the box, and there's the wires. That's what you get in a bag. Now let's see what we have here. Okay. Some screws. Put those to the side. Some zip ties. We'll put those to the side. And here's one harness, and here's the other harness. Now, let's open this up. It's going to be tough to do with one hand, but there we go. Okay, let's see which harness this is. Alright. This is the exterior harness. And it goes like this. These two go onto the fogs, right? Let me untangle this a little bit. Alright. Now, there's a ground wire attached to that. You just ground this to the body. There's a bolt on the side of the subframe I like to use. You can use whatever. It just got to go to a bare metal part of the body, right? Now on the other end of this, they have this little baby. This you connect on the passenger side. On the bottom, you have the windshield washer fluid reservoir, right? And behind that, there's a harness taped up. Now you take the tape off, and you plug this in. And then you're done with this harness, right? Two go to the fog lights. You got a ground right there. There's the two for the fogs. You have the ground, and then you have this that goes to the harness behind the windshield washer fluid. Now I'll set that aside with the rest of the stuff. Now untangle this. And let's see what we have waiting for us. Alright, put this to the side. Now, we have this green switch, which is by itself on one end. That goes to the switch. See? Plug that in there. Next up, you have this little mess. And this is what we got to make sense of. This is a relay. I have it plugged in because I already unboxed it before. But fresh out of the box, the relay itself is in a little plastic box, and you plug it into the harness with the 4 wires in it. Alright, now that the relay is done with, we have this ground wire. The ground wire goes on the steering column underneath. When you're laying on your back looking up at the steering column, you're going to see a main ground point there. There's already like 4 or 5 grounds. You undo that screw, you put this in there with it, and then you tighten the screw and you got your ground. And then you have this one. Now, on the steering column again, just further down, closer to the pedals, you have a factory harness there. I don't remember the color. I think it's brown, either brown or blue. I'm pretty sure it's brown on the inside, blue on the outside. So, whatever that color is, that too is taped up, and you just plug this in. And now, you have these two with the T-taps, right? And they go to a fuse. Now, the fuse is there just as a precaution so you don't short your system, right? Now, to these 2 wires, The sticker one is the power. This is where it needs to draw the power to run the actual fogs. This other one is the remote wire that gives the signal to the relay to switch on to wherever you have a remote connected to. If you have a remote connected to the parking lights, once you put the parking lights on, you can then power up your fogs. If you have the remote wire connected to your low beams, then as soon as you put your low beams on, you can run the fogs. Or if you have the remote wire tapped into, let's say, the driver's side window. Now, as soon as your driver's side window has power, you have the ability to switch on your fog lights. Now, you can't connect this to a 12-volt constant because then it's always going to be drawing current. And then you can forget your fog lights on, and when you go to it the next morning, you're not going to have any power to start the battery. Now, these obviously are not very long. They're long enough if you want to tap into your existing harness for the power, which I don't recommend because all the wires, excuse me, all the wires already underneath the car in the fuse panel are already circuited out. So you gotta run this to the battery, through the firewall to the battery, and obviously you're gonna have to extend it. So you cut this little T-tap off, little connector, and you got to extend the wire and run it to the battery. And now this also, what I do is I cut that off and extend it too, and run it to the fuse panel. I sandwich it between a fuse because this doesn't really draw any power. All it does is take a signal and send it to the relay, which will then draw the power from the battery. So you're not damaging anything by sandwiching this in between the fuses. And then by doing that, you can also select when you want your power. If you want it for your low beams, meaning you got to run your low beams to have your fog lights on, then you run it to a low beam fuse. If you want it to your parking lights, meaning that you're going to run them with your parking lights only, your parking or service lights, whatever you call it, then you tap into the parking light fuse. If you just want to run your fog lights only, no other exterior lighting on, then you run it to your radio's fuse, your driver's side window, anything that gets power with only the key in the ignition. You know, this way you're not killing your battery, and you don't have to run your low beams or your parking lights or what have you to have the fog lights working. And that's pretty much it. And then you just zip tie the stuff away, and you see where these screws fit. You know, I didn't really look into it, but off memory, you don't really need anything. All you need is one Phillips screw for the fog light right here, and everything else clips in place. Extremely easy to put on. And that's all.